Hey guys, welcome back. If you've been looking for an amazing way to box up your Mother's Day gift, then you're in luck because today you're going to learn how to make and assemble this Mother's Day box. And I've already got most of the work done for you, so make sure that you grab the free template from my blog at svgnation.com. And there's also going to be a link in the video description that's going to take you directly there. You'll also find links for any of the supplies that I'm using to make this box. So if you want to know what I'm using, you're going to be able to find those there. So once you have this template uploaded to Cricut Design Space, it's going to look like this. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out so that you can see everything a little bit better. Okay, and you are going to need to ungroup all of your layers before you can modify anything. And so go ahead and ungroup those. And this box is mostly ready to go, but you do need to add those score lines. If you're not using a scoring tool, then instead of changing the lines to score, you're going to delete them. So you're going to start right here with this left box. And if you notice it's grouped together, click on that layer that has the lines and go into your operation and click score. And then you're going to click back on that group, which has the score lines and that box layer, and go ahead and attach those. And you need to do these same steps for these next 3 box pieces. So go ahead and change that to score and attach that. And we're just changing this one to score again and clicking on that group to attach them. So they're all set up. They should be the first 4 lines. Oh, if you get that error right there like I just did, that's because I tried to score the entire group. You do need to make sure that you click on those lines right there to just score those, and then you'll attach them that way. Okay, and then the next ones we need to do is for this next row. We're going to do the exact same things. Just click on that line, change that to a score line, and then attach. And I do recommend using a scoring tool if you have one. That way everything folds on the correct spaces, and that's going to just make your box line up so much better. But if you don't have a scoring tool, then you can just delete all of these score lines and fold it by hand. Okay, so we're just about done. We just have one more left. Okay, so everything else is ready to go. However, I just want to kind of tell you what some of the pieces are in case you don't want them. So right here, this is just the inside of your box liner. So if you want to use less paper, you can get rid of this. This is going to kind of hide those little tab lines on the bottom of your box, and it's going to make it a little sturdier, so I recommend using it. And then these 3 pieces, these are just the decorative pieces on the outside of the box. So if you don't want to use those, and again, you can delete those to use less paper. And then right here, this box doesn't have to say mom. You might not be giving it to mom. Maybe you want to personalize it with their name. So you can just delete that and then add a name. And so when you add a name, I just recommend using a very thick script font, and then make sure that you weld those pieces together. And if you want to know how big to make this, you're just going to line it up with this white area. Let's go ahead and bring this to the front. Oh, really quick. Okay, you just want to make sure that the text lines up right on that white line. And we can zoom in so you can see that better. So like I said, you can personalize this for any name. Just make sure that it's going to glue right there in that white spot right there. And so those are really all the changes that you need to make. And if you guys want to resize this box, you can do that as well. This is a pretty large box. I am adding some slippers in here just to give you an idea of the size. So if you want to make this smaller, all you're going to do is maybe zoom out so that you can see everything on here, and make sure that you have every single piece selected. So if you see, I just dragged it around and it's got all of those layers selected, and then you can just drag in those corners to resize it. Now keep in mind, as you make the box smaller, you're also making it so it's not as high. And so kind of a good way to go about sizing the box is if you know a certain length and a certain height that you want this box, go ahead and take your shape tool. And say you want this to be 2 inches high. Okay, this is already 2 inches, so that's perfect. But you want the length to be about 6 inches maybe. And now keep in mind, you are going to have to keep these boxes proportionate, so you're not going to be able to perfectly customize the size of the box. But this is just a way how you can kind of do this. So this is 6 inches high and this is 2 inches high. So this space from this score line to this score line is the height of your box. So you can just kind of place this right here, and obviously I have plenty of room to go down because I only need it 2 inches high. Okay, and then the longer ones right here, these are the length of your box, and then these are going to be the width. So you can bring this over here to the length. So as you see, if I only want this to be like 6 inches long and 2 inches high, obviously I have a lot of room right here where I can resize. So make sure that you select everything. And we don't need to have these selected, so I'm going to unselect those. And then you can kind of maneuver it, kind of keeping it to make sure it's going to fit in those dimensions that you're wanting. You kind of move that around so it's still high enough that you need it and tall enough. So as soon as you kind of get close, maybe you're kind of like in the height here, you want a little extra space, then that's where you want to leave those dimensions at. So you can't get like perfectly customizable, but you can pretty much get it to fit a lot of different things. All right, so once you have everything how you want it and the box the size that you want it, you can go ahead and click on Make It, but first make sure you get rid of those guides. You're not going to need those. And then you can go ahead and start cutting everything out. So when you take this piece that has all of these cutouts, which for me, this is that white paper that's the top of my card, you need to be really careful with removing these. So make sure that when you remove these, you flip your mat over and really go very slowly, pushing down all the pieces to make sure that they come off the mat. If any pieces get stuck on the mat and you continue to pull, you might rip some of the pieces that are supposed to be in your design. So just really take your time with this part. And even if it's not part of the design, just press it down just in case, so you don't get confused on which ones are and which ones aren't. Okay, so once you do that, go ahead and peel all the extra pieces that don't need to be in there out. And if you did have a little piece rip, it looks like mine ripped right here, we are going to be gluing this down, so don't freak out. Once you glue it down, you're not even going to see that rip. If you have any major rips, then you may want to recut this, but if you have some little ones like this, just keep in mind this is going to be glued down, so you'll be able to make it work. So go ahead and put that aside and we'll come back to it later. All right, so now you should have two pieces like this. Now, keep in mind there's a few different rectangle pieces that look like this. This one is not the one that's the same color as the sides of the box. This is the one that should be the color as one of your flowers. So if you're doing the same colors as me, this is the green flower layer right here. And then this one is kind of like that background for that front design. And so I'm using a pretty rose gold metallic. I saw this at Hobby Lobby and thought it'd be really pretty. But if you don't have a Hobby Lobby near you, I'll go ahead and link to something very similar on Amazon if you want to pick that up. And so you're just going to glue these together. So once you have this glued down, this is kind of like a puzzle piece. So you're going to take your flowers and place them where they go. But before gluing them down, make sure that you line them up first to make sure that you glue them down with the right side. And you're going to continue to fill in these pieces until all but two of them are filled in. So those two green flowers that you have, you're not going to have anything to fill those in because it's already going to remain green with that bottom piece or whatever color you're using for that bottom piece. So you're not going to have flowers to glue in those places. But when you are gluing the flowers down, the pieces are going to fit completely inside the cutout. So if it doesn't line up correctly, then it may not go there, or you may need to rotate it or flip it or both. And then you're going to glue those middle pieces on the inside of the flowers. Once those are filled in, put that aside and grab your 4 box sides. So you're going to have 4 pieces that look almost identical, but 2 of them are just a little bit smaller than the other 2. And go ahead and fold on all of those score lines, that way you're able to see them easier. And then you're going to attach the pieces together by gluing them in a straight line using those tab pieces to connect them. But when you glue them, you need to alternate the sizes. So you're going to have a longer piece, a shorter piece, a longer piece, and then a shorter piece. And it doesn't matter which one you start with, just as long as you alternate them. And when you glue the tab piece to attach the sides together, make sure that you fold in to help press that down, but also to make sure that you didn't glue on top of that score line, because that piece needs to be able to fold over correctly so that your box can form correctly. Once these are all glued together, you're going to glue that top piece over the bottom piece. So you're just going to add glue there and then fold it right down on the score line so that you can glue it on top of each other. What this is going to do is it's going to give you a sturdier base for your box. And since this is a larger box, you do want that sturdier base. And so you're going to go ahead and do that for all 4 sides. And then you can go ahead and close the box in by gluing that last tab piece to the inside of your box. And when you glue this, make sure that all the tab pieces are facing on the inside of the box when you glue that to the inside. That way they're all going to be hidden. And then you're going to notice that you have 2 rectangle pieces almost identical, but one is actually just a little bit smaller than the other. So line those up and measure those, and you're going to use the piece right now that is larger. So set the smaller rectangle piece aside, and then you're going to take that larger rectangle and you're going to glue it to the bottom of your box. And it's going to be easiest to glue one side at a time. That way you can line it up really well. So just flip that box over and press down from the inside as you glue, and use your brayer to kind of help get each piece attached really well. And you're going to continue to do this for all 4 sides. Just take your time, line everything up, and press down everything really well so that you can have a real good sturdy box. And then once you have all of those 4 sides glued down, you're going to flip that box over and add in your liner. And you don't necessarily have to use this piece, but it is going to give you a sturdier box, and it's going to hide those tab pieces on the inside to give your box more of a finished look. But if you're trying to use less paper, then you can leave this step out. But now that you have the box assembled, we're going to go ahead and start on the lid. So you're going to grab all 4 of those lid pieces and fold on that tab line. And you're going to glue these together the same way you did with the box, alternating between the bigger size and the smaller size. And again, it doesn't matter which order, just make sure that you're alternating them when you glue them down. And when you glue them down, make sure you glue those down really well, those tab pieces. And again, fold on them as you glue them down on those score lines to make sure that you don't glue over those score lines so that you can easily fold those pieces in to help that lid come together. And then if you're using those decorative pieces for the sides, go ahead and glue those on to the outside of the box. So the inside is going to be where you can see the tab pieces. So you want to make sure that these are going on the outside. And you're just kind of lining these up in the middle so they'll each have like a little white border around them. And if you are using the glue that I'm using, if you see a wet look because you're using a lot of glue, that's fine, because once it dries, that wetness look goes away. So don't worry about that. But then you're going to want to attach the white front part of your box to those flower pieces that you glued together earlier. And the easiest way to do this is to add the glue to the back of the white layer. But you don't need to add glue to those really skinny flower outlines. So don't worry about putting glue there. And when you're adding glue, make sure that this is the back side. If you're not sure which one's the back side, then line it up with those other flower pieces you assembled earlier to make sure you've got it right. And then when you have glue there, you're going to go ahead and line those up and glue them together. And so you're going to notice that most of those smaller flower outlines didn't need glued down to stay, but there are a few that are kind of sticking up a little. So now you can just go in and just add a drop of glue to hold those pieces down that are sticking up. And that's going to be a lot easier than trying to put glue around all of those little skinny flowers. But once you have all of that glued down, you still have those 3 flowers to add. So go ahead and line those up where they go. Again, you'll be able to match it up to that white spot. And then you can either glue these down flat or you can curl them. And I prefer to curl them just to make the box a little bit more fun. So to curl them, you're just going to kind of scrape the petals with your nail and kind of curve it upward as you do that. So kind of think like you're curling ribbon. And then you're going to do that for each of the petals and then glue that middle part of the flower down in its spot. Then you'll go ahead and glue down Mom or whatever name you're using. And then if you want to add some bling to your box, you can use adhesive rhinestones or any other jewels to add to the middle of your flowers. I love the look of the rhinestones. I think that some pearls would be pretty as well. And so all that's left now is to finish up closing your box lid. So you're just going to glue that tab piece down to the inside of the front of your box and just press that down really well and let it dry. And then once it's dry, you can go ahead and add your present inside the box, and then you're just going to slide that lid over it. So it is a little bit of a tight fit because you don't want the inside of the box to slide out on its own, but there is plenty of room to open and close the box. So just kind of slide the 2 bottom corners of the box inside the lid and then lift that lid on top, and then you can push it in there really easy. But I hope you guys will have a lot of fun making this and especially giving this box. And if you guys have any questions on how to make it, leave those in the comments and I'll answer them there. But before you go, make sure that you like this video and subscribe so that way you'll know when I post new craft videos. And thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.